Parkour. Let's get into it. Hey, it's me, Steven again. The solo developer of Symphony, the musical action RPG where you already know. If you don't, let me show you. Cool, right? Music fighting game. And in this update video, after 1 month of sheer grind, over the span of 45 updates, I have finally added some of the most stylish hardcore parkour in the game. Just like I said I would in the previous video. This feature will have multiple uses, obviously for traversing certain parts of the level that are off ground, but mostly for the combat. Since in the game, as I've already shown you, there are ground enemies and there are also air enemies. Some of these air enemies will be very high in the air and you won't be able to reach them from the ground, therefore making it necessary to climb buildings while dodging their attacks until you reach the level and you fight them in the air from there. Also be useful when you're climbing around chasing culprits, looking for clues, etc. Since Symphony is actually a music detective game. Bet you didn't know that. Well, I've already mentioned it that much, but yeah, there you go. Now you know. Now before we dive in, I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. This is actually the first time I've ever made a parkour system like this. After the previous video when I announced that I was gonna add this, I actually had almost no clue how I was gonna do it. I mean, yeah, I did have like a few flimsy method ideas floating around, but for the most part, I was just like, yeah, we'll just see what method I end up with. Yo, even my homies I did in a group chat with my other game dev friends was like, yo man, this is sick, how you gonna do it? And well, I luckily had to err because at that point I had nothing but just the task ahead of me. All I could do was just believe, which was actually more than enough because in game dev, or anything in life really, you must believe. Not because you are making progress, but because it is the requirement to make progress. So that mindset and my very vague plan for the method I was going to use, I dived straight in. And I was not going to stop until I got it to be no less than exactly the way I envisioned it. First thing I made was a vertical wall run since, well, to traverse up a wall, you'd need to run up it and that was easy enough. Next I made the horizontal wall run so you can run across the wall and not just up it. After that I added a feature where after leaping directly onto a wall, you automatically slide gracefully down it to break a fall if you happen to jump at a wall from high up. I then added the ability to grab onto ledges since that would obviously be needed for climbing. And after that I added the ability to climb further up a wall to the nearest ledge above you. And everything so far was pretty straightforward and not that difficult for me. But it's from this point onwards where the level of complexity and the tasks ahead skyrocketed, as this required me for the first time in my game dev experience to actually make a full-on climbing system, which I managed to do, and here it is. I know. Wow, amazing, right? You were probably expecting some insane looking craziness and not something that looks this simple, but yeah, no, this is it. Because one thing in game dev that I've learned throughout my experience is the best approach is always the most simplest approach. I mean, okay, obviously not just the simplest approach. It also has to be the most flexible too. So yeah, in general, both the most simplest and most flexible approach, that will virtually always be the best approach. And it's this that led me, after a little experimentation and a lot of trial and error coding, to this. Now, I won't waste all our time together and explain it in too much detail, but in a nutshell, it's a grid. Imagine the cube is the main character, Stefan. Each number is a ledge, be it a window or anything you can grab onto when you're climbing on a wall. First digit is the first floor, so floor 1, floor 2, floor 3. Second digit is the number of the ledge in the horizontal sequence, so from left to right it's 1 upwards. And if I press up, I go up a floor. If I press down, I go down the floor. Left, I go to the one to the left. Right, you get the gist. It's very basic. But boy, did it not start out that way. Man, I had to 1 hour later. Anyways, now that I had the system made, I can now go even further and have it tell the character to climb in different ways according to the distance of the next ledge. Which for this, I primarily broke up into 3 different climbs: short distance, medium distance, and long distance. And after that, I had everything I needed to then move on to having them climb in all the other directions, being down, left, right. And before I continued, I had to make sure I had style to these animations, since Stefan, as we already know, is a very stylish moving lad. Up left diagonal, up right, down left, and down right. And speaking about down right, after I was done, it looked downright awesome. Next, of course, when you reach the top of a wall, you gotta climb up the top, so I added that too. After that, I also added the ability to eject off a wall, straight from the wall climbing, and you feel, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to go over there. Boing. There you go. And then I added some things to really gel it all together, like ledge shimmying, turning while ledge shimmying when you reach corners, the ability to transition into a ledge hang, which I mean, look at the spicy. Although me filming myself as a reference to anime, this wasn't as elegant, but hey, you gotta do what you gotta do, you get me? And I also added little details like the ability to transition from a wall run into a ledge hang if a ledge is nearby, which you can also do from horizontal wall running, wall sliding, and just jumping directly onto a wall, making the parkour movement a much more seamless experience overall. And lastly, I added a vaulting system. The animations for this, of course, will be much more varied and interesting than this simple Kong vault animation that I made, but my primary aim when working on it was to simply get the system for it made, so I can later apply whatever animation I need for whatever object the character needs to vault over, since I've designed the roadmap for the development of this game in a way where I don't waste too much time on one task and that I do just enough before moving on another if there's a future task which involves the further development of a current task, which for the vault system there is, which will lead me to inevitably and eventually get back to it and hit 2 birds with 1 stone. Like that. No birds were harmed in the making of this animation, you saw nothing. And with that, everything I had planned for the parkour system was done. And here is how it looks. Lovely doubly. Not too complex, but versatile enough to do everything it needs to do. And now Parkour is officially off my roadmap, moving this game one more step closer to completion. That is all for this update. Next, I'll be working on expanding the music combat in the game and also including some of the more niche and unique music theory combat ideas that I've planned for it. Most of the stuff I've worked on in the combat up until this point focus more around the rhythmy aspects, since those were the easiest to get through first, but this game is a lot more than that, so yeah, now it's about to get saucy. Yeah, we're about to be cooking for real for real. And as I do that, I'll also be working on polishing and releasing chapter 0 of this game that I dropped the reveal trailer of last month. For those of you who don't know, this game is a much smaller practice project that I made simultaneously to me working on Sword of Symphony from September 2023 up to around late Feb, early March 2024. And I was actually going to drop it in April 2024, but this was coincidentally just before I had to go silent off social media to tackle and deal once and for all with some external circumstances outside of my creative work before returning back to social media last November and beginning this revival arc, if you will, with my work. Anyway, seeing how it blew up even more than Sword of Symphony when I first announced it with 500,000 views already on the reveal trailer and almost 40k subs on its YouTube from just the first video, I'm taking that as a sign that you guys really like the look of it, so let me know in the comments if you want devlogs of that here too. I've already finished the content in the first chapter I'm about to release, so the videos will be more just me explaining how I made the game from start to finish, and also my ideas going forward and the canonical link between it and Sword of Symphony, since this game takes place canonically during the development of Sword of Symphony. Yeah, you heard me right, this game setting is as crazy as that sounds, and I'll explain more about that in the devlog, so let me know if you want them. So on that note, peace. Follow the socials of the other project if you're interested, and I'll see you all in the next Sword of Symphony update video.